Just gonna keep saying it to you. You're ugly on the outside and you're gonna drag everyone down into your ugly shit. And I still know I'm going to get you. Because you want everyone to feel as shit about themselves as you feel about yourself. Because you fucking hate yourself and you should hate yourself.
There's shit I do that I just can't talk about, man.
Because you are shit. You are shit inside as well as outside. Talk about my problems. And I'm always right, by the way.
I really need to see a doctor.
You don't get to know me. Cyberbullying is bad. It's not good for your emotional health. Like, this is all wrong, you know? This is just all wrong.
David Anthony O'Driscoll, known online primarily as Fiach O'Haderskowl, and to a lesser extent, Smuggles O'Lanzer, has been active within internet Discordian communities dating back to 2013. David is notable for adminning the Discordian Society, one of the largest Discordian-related Facebook groups, while also maintaining a decade-long campaign of criminal harassment and sexual predation, both of which persist to this day. Our documentary aims to chronicle David O'Driscoll's systematic abuse and make known his exploitative tactics to a broader audience, as well as provide a voice for those who have been victimized. David O'Driscoll has stalked, threatened, and doxed countless individuals during his years spent online. David has targeted his victims' friends, family, and employers with malicious slander. David has both publicly and privately admitted having an attraction to pubescent boys, and in a series of disturbing leaked messages, was shown to know the names and ages of several children belonging to members of his Facebook group. He then goes on to describe in graphic detail what sex acts he fantasizes about performing on them. David has also been accused of sharing a photo of his genitalia in a group chat that contained a minor, and soliciting the 16-year-old brother of a former member of the Discordian Society. Each of these instances will be examined in greater detail throughout our documentary.
I really have to delete these videos afterwards. Like, this is crime, potentially. Actually, wait, no, it's not. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Like, spreading it around is crime. Spreading around your docs is crime. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. So I totally have to delete this afterwards.
While not much is known about David's life previous to his introduction to the online Discordian community, certain constants can be gleaned from both his many Facebook posts, as well as conversations held with former friends. Born June 18, 1986, David O'Driscoll is a lifelong native of Ireland. David has stated that his biological mother gave him up for adoption at birth, and he was taken in by an older, upper-middle-class couple who were unable to conceive. David accuses his adoptive mother of having been psychologically abusive and felt his father was not a strong enough figure in the household to protect him from an overbearing and unsympathetic matriarch. David describes himself as being an extremely troubled child where he would torture and kill neighborhood animals and have regular physical altercations with his mother. He attended a private Catholic school during his formative years and was shunned by the other children, something he attributes to his autism. In his late teens, David would discover alcohol and began frequently stealing it from his father's liquor cabinet. David's troubles with alcohol would quickly become a major aspect of his life going forward, and inebriation only served to exacerbate his already erratic, oft-times violent behavior. When David was in his early 20s, he would come out to his mother as gay, a truth which was not well received by her strict Catholic ideologies. This revelation drove a further wedge between mother and son.
He also told me that his mom was like a very cold, distant bitch and always compared him to other children and told him how unsuccessful he was and this, that, and the other. And he came out to her one time. He wrote her a letter about him being homosexual. And she started comforting him, and he was crying, and he actually was crying with his head in her lap. And she kept saying, oh, it's okay, we'll fix it, it's okay, that can change, we can get through this and all that stuff. And it made him cry harder because of the nature of what she was actually saying, which was that it's not okay to be gay and that it's a problem to be fixed. And so he just felt extra burdenous and unaccepted.
David O'Driscoll introduced himself to the Facebook Discordianism community as an American teenager using the pseudonym Smuggles O'Lanzer, a name derived by combining the Sandy Hook school shooter's internet handle, Smuggles, and Irishizing the shooter's last name, Lanzer. In 2015, David would enter rehab for his alcohol addiction, and soon after being released, his more vicious nature would begin making itself known. David's sobriety was short-lived, and his friendships began to dissolve as a tendency towards verbal abuse became more prevalent. Others continued their support, still believing David was an intelligent but neglected teenager, suffering an abusive home life, and simply in need of friends and compassion. During this early period, David would also meet Kristen Renee Martin, known online by the name Fern Breathnach, an individual who would go on to become one of David's most adherent protectors and an indispensable cog in David's ongoing system of abuse. David used his fraudulent age as a guise to subvert any criticisms of his behavior, allowing him to skirt accountability, while also delving into a rich and delusional fantasy of youth, power, and confidence. To maintain this ongoing deception, David would use photos and video of himself from high school, and despite the eventual admission that he resides in Ireland, David O'Driscoll continued his age charade for nearly 4 years, only coming clean when screenshots emerged in 2018 wherein he admits to being a 31-year-old man. David seemingly accepted that the elaborate game, as he called it, was over in regards to the ongoing lie about his age. However, these revelations neither curbed his sadistic, oftentimes illegal harassment of others, nor his highly inappropriate sexual remarks regarding minors. Soon David would begin live streaming, embracing what he called his true self, which quickly devolved into a visibly unhinged and inebriated David O'Driscoll broadcasting himself doxing a member of what he considered to be a rival Discordianism group. In 2019, despite David's best efforts to maintain his anonymity, these live streams coupled with his alcohol abuse would result in the discovery of David's full legal name, something which he had successfully hidden for 6 long years. During a live tarot card reading, David provided his PayPal address for donations, not realizing his name would be visible to anyone who sent funds. One person paid $5 for a tarot reading, and brought this detail to David's attention afterwards. David O'Driscoll attempted to threaten this individual into silence. Fortunately, David's abusive approach backfired and resulted in his name being widely released to the Discordian Society and other related communities. This discovery, coupled with the growing accusations of pedophilia, caused David to abandon his online presence for nearly 12 months. before eventually returning with a renewed vitriol and sense of invincibility. Despite his age, name, and country of residence being made available online, David O'Driscoll seemingly became emboldened by the lack of consequences for his past behavior.
I was a sideliner to him. I think that he's the type of personality that will get people to, he'll get people to back him up, basically. Like, I grew up around a lot of predators, so yeah, it's real easy for me to get caught in a predator's path. And then, of course, I'm naturally nice, so I want to think the best of everybody, right? Which I definitely think he used me or groomed our relationship for me to be somebody that would defend him, which there were times that I did because I was just like, yeah, sure, whatever, like he's a good guy.
The Discordian Society is a Facebook group which boasts 7,300 members and serves as David's primary source of narcissistic supply. This community is essential in providing David O'Driscoll with an evergreen pasture of victims, wherein he seeks out vulnerable individuals and scapegoats much of his behavior under the pretense of Discordianism. At first glance, the Discordian Society appears to be an innocent discussion board for Discordians and like-minded individuals. But beyond its surface-level window dressing, this community is a hunting ground, with David's involvement in Discordian subculture ultimately being motivated by a deep-seated need to emotionally and sexually predate upon others. The group also provides a convenient forum within which David can manage public perception of his actions and spin narratives that downplay or excuse his abusive behavior. Adding to the confusion are two other The Discordian Society Facebook groups under David's control, which act as extensions of the main community, along with countless other groups using the name The Discordian Society, or some variation thereof. These exist largely in response to the most active Discordia-related groups having been co-opted by two individuals and used for their own exploitative gain.
What I just tell you is a regular guy that has a Facebook account that happens to be involved into two subcultures, Discordia and the Church of the Subgenius, that, in my opinion, is super bad news. He's not funny. He's abusive. I've never really seen anything productive come out of any post that he's ever done. It's been divisive and overtly, even though Discordia can be that way, overtly sexual, and not just overtly sexual in a way that it's not for me, but directed towards young men. And when I say young men, I mean children. I don't mean people of age of majority. I mean under the age of 18. And yeah, you know, first you look at that kind of stuff and you think, oh, it's trying to be an edgelord. He thinks this and that. But then if you really think about it, you're like, who would make that their gimmick? That they're hunting little boys. I mean, it's not even, it goes to the thing, if you can't take a joke, fuck it. Well, is the joke funny? That's not even funny. The premise of it just isn't funny. So for me, he's a hard no. Don't want anything else to do with him. For his friend Fern, who I have much more of an involved relationship with, was friends with for a long time and all that stuff, went along in a lot of the same circles. Her defense of him, kind of undefendable to me.
Many times, adamantly, a very unstable person. I mean, I just can't emphasize that enough. And then later I found out to be very dangerous because of what happened to me. I mean, yeah, let's see, I'm trying to think of specific examples. Well, she's terribly afraid to go outside. She will sit in her, not only just in her apartment, but won't leave her room for days at a time, and actually weeks at a time. So she'll sit in there, it's really dark in there, she keeps the window boarded up, and all she's doing is she's on her phone on the Discordian Society, and she just lives it, like everything's so important about it, you know. I mean, that's all she ever talks about, it's all she ever does. And she, yeah, Fiach is like an angel or a god of some sort to her. He can do no wrong. No matter what, she will defend him. I mean, no matter what he does. I mean, he could be, and might have been, a pedophile, whatever, but she will defend him like she's his own mother. She did tell me that she tried to have sex with him. She wanted to, but he declined. See what else. I mean, the examples could go on. I mean, on and on for days and days. I could give you examples. Like I said, I lived there for all the months I lived there. She never took a shower a single time.
David O'Driscoll's longtime friend, confidant, and primary enabler, Kristen Renee Martin, is known online as Fern Breathnach, an avowed Discordian. She is the primary operator of the Discordian Society. Fern has continually provided David O'Driscoll a platform from which he can conveniently choose his targets and silence detractors, while Fern works towards performing damage control on David's behalf. Fern's online persona is that of a vulnerable, middle-aged mother. Eccentric but harmless, ever the victim of circumstances beyond her control. In 2014, Fern and her 3 daughters moved from Covington, Kentucky to Salem, Oregon, in order to escape what she described as an extremely abusive marriage. Fern attributes David O'Driscoll with giving her the confidence she needed to leave her husband and set out on her own, a move which Fern claims to have literally saved her life. Life in the Pacific Northwest has not been any easier. After her 2 youngest daughters moved out, Fern was left renting the spare bedroom in her apartment to multiple unwitting individuals, 2 of which were former members of the Discordian Society, and both left with a very different perspective of the woman they had previously only known online. In 2017, David O'Driscoll would travel from his residence in Ireland to Salem, Oregon to visit Fern for 2 weeks. During this period, Fern's then teenage daughters were still living under their mother's roof, and despite David expressing concerns that he could be a potential physical threat to Fern's daughters, she still allowed David into her home, with Fern's only safety precaution being to hide all of the knives in her apartment prior to David's arrival. Fern's oldest daughter, Ivy, has expressed her exhaustion dealing with her mother's constant gaslighting and emotional blackmail. In one public Facebook post, Ivy accuses her mother of allowing a mentally ill man and known sex offender, Lynn McCoy, to harass her daughter based on lies told to him by Fern. Fern's only response to this post was to ask that Ivy remove a tag which linked to an inaccessible sock account. Fern states she suffers from agoraphobia, schizophrenia, and chronic back pain, ailments which prevent her from maintaining employment. The bulk of her days are spent on Facebook running several Discordian-related pages and groups. Fern and David have an incredibly peculiar relationship, steeped in codependency, with Fern serving as David's surrogate mother and defender, and David fulfilling Fern's need for constant engagement and status within the Discordian community. Because of the nature and volume of David's activities, he has consequently taken extended breaks from having a known online presence. During these periods, the Discordian Society Facebook group has been left in the hands of Fern, who dutifully maintains the page until David's eventual return. She has even appointed her own son, Seth Gobby, to act as a stable Facebook profile with which to regain control of the group should either Fern or David's profiles be terminated. The Facebook pages Aneris and the Discordian Society likewise allow for them to operate the group from off-grid sock accounts. Aside from a few regulars, the remaining admins and moderators of the Discordian Society are a revolving door of warm bodies used in order to give the appearance that their group is not solely managed by 2 individuals. Some moderators, while aware of Fiach's repugnant exploits, either out of fear, cowardice, or apathy, continue to remain silent, allowing David to harass and humiliate members at his leisure. Other moderators are removed after they speak out or eventually become disillusioned with the aim of the community. Fern has also admitted to freely allowing David to use her personal Facebook pages, giving David access to the information of individuals who had not felt comfortable adding Fiach to their friends list. It is not by coincidence that Fern has also hijacked a second Discordian group, also called the Discordian Society, which contains nearly 4,000 members. Many of the profiles on the admin list are inactive, allowing Fern to appoint essentially the same administrators from David's group. Although none of David O'Driscoll's Facebook profiles can be seen on the admin or moderator list here, Fern has been documented as stating she freely shares her accounts with David, essentially providing him with the same privileges and platform without needing to physically be on the roster of admins. Each of the highlighted accounts belong to Fern, and by proxy, David O'Driscoll. In addition to Facebook pages which she is primary owner of, but contain a similar list of moderators working behind the scenes. The amount of thought and calculation which goes into providing David a replenishing supply of victims via his own private narcissistic hunting ground is truly astounding. With the majority of legwork being maintained by what can only be considered David's co-conspirator, Kristen Renee Martin, aka Fern.
Okay, mini rant. And it's kind of embarrassing. So, did anyone else as a kid, and it's embarrassing for me, it doesn't have to be for you, and I wish it wasn't embarrassing for me. Did anyone else as a kid, like, not just wish, but like fantasize, daydream about like some fucked up shit happening so you could have like a tragic backstory? Like, I didn't want anything to happen to the ones I loved, but I wouldn't have minded getting hit by a train. But I also thought I would have lived. Point is, I remember I did that all through my childhood, even a bit through my teens and high school, honestly. Just had these like crazy vivid daydreams and stuff, and then I finally realized when I got older that the reason why I needed this in my head and wanted to make something up, I wanted something bad, was because I wanted like an excuse as justification for the way I felt, because I knew things were really bad, but I didn't know what. And it makes so much sense now. Now I'm sitting here as an adult, wishing I had a normal childhood. Like, I didn't even come out interesting. I got nothing out of this. How did I forget the crucial detail that was I was starved, neglected, not allowed to go to school, not allowed to go have friends, not allowed to go outside, and more things I was not allowed to do. That would have been really good to put like before everything else I just said. Night.
In addition to David's initial guise of posing as a teenager, he has frequently updated his social media with posts expressing his attraction to underage boys. This has continued well after David was exposed as being an adult. It has also been alleged that David shared a photo of his genitalia in a group chat which contained a minor. While this claim has not been 100% substantiated, the photograph was determined to belong to that of David O'Driscoll. Possibly one of the most sickening incidents came when screenshots of a leaked conversation wherein David provides the initials and ages of several children belonging to members of his group, the Discordian Society. At least one of the children mentioned in these screenshots belonged to the same woman David O'Driscoll tormented after her husband's death. On Christmas of that same year, David messaged this woman from one of his sock accounts to make additional threats and lewd remarks about her teenage son. Fern has given various conflicting responses when asked about David's continual admissions of pedophilia and sexual solicitation of minors, even attempting to defend David after he had sexually harassed her former roommate's 16-year-old brother via Facebook. In one instance, Fern shrugs David's remarks off as trolling. She then curiously attempts to justify hebephilia by introducing the topic of teen models and Paul Rubin's 2002 arrest. Upon being further pressed, Fern admits that David O'Driscoll envies youth.
Haven't even, like, got into the mud, deep into it. because I know that once I start doing Google and start checking all this stuff out, I'm going to find some shit. And honestly, everything I've been doing for the past couple of days here on YouTube and in the groups and all the craziness and the drinking, you know, just kind of feeling you out. We're not even getting started, bitch. We're not even getting started yet. For real. We are not even getting lukewarm yet. Okay, so you're gonna want to quit. Oh, she's like she will, yeah. I am actually being my authentic self, believe it or not. I know it's all dramatic, but like, for real, you know?
In 2019, David adopted a kitten he named Felix. David enjoyed making frequent posts about his new pet. Sadly, after a month of regular updates, photos and videos of Felix ceased. It was only when people began asking about the feline's absence did David write a short, unmoved Facebook post claiming Felix had gone missing. Due to David's prior admissions of animal cruelty and concerning private statements wherein he feared that he could harm his pets while inebriated, this instance has left many to speculate that David O'Driscoll killed Felix.
And I've seen him, put his cat out there before to get the cat out of the way when he gets drunk, because he says if the cat stays in the room, he might kill it, whether intentionally or by falling on top of it.
The examples of David O'Driscoll's criminal harassment are too numerous to list, and a more complete archive of screenshots will be provided in the video description. For the sake of brevity, we have decided to highlight some of David O'Driscoll's most extreme examples of psychological abuse. In 2018, David O'Driscoll tormented a mother and grieving widow after learning that her husband had passed away. Both the deceased and his wife had been members of the Discordian Society. Sensing her pain and vulnerability, David began to harass this woman, continually taunting her from multiple profiles, making sexual remarks about her children, and claiming to have been the one to call Child Protective Services on her shortly after her husband's death. David has contacted the friends, family, and employers of multiple people with damaging and baseless accusations. In one of these instances, David contacted a man's 15-year-old son claiming the boy's father was a rapist. This egregious slander has also been responsible for at least one individual losing their job. Another common tactic employed by David is to use photos of his victims' deceased loved ones with the intent of inflicting the maximum amount of psychological damage. In one instance, going so far as to take a photo directly from the online obituary of his target's recently deceased mother. David O'Driscoll's actions plainly go far beyond mere trolling. The fear and pain he has caused his victims is immeasurable. What he does, by all definitions, is malevolent, sadistic, and criminal.
Please take it seriously. And like, maybe you're gonna say, hey, I wanna call his bluff, and if he does it, I'll call the cops, cause that's what I did. Like, so I have 74 pages in total. Some of the fuck. Just give up. Just give up. I want you to just give up. It wasn't. I made a fool of myself. Isn't that what y'all said? Washed my face with the fucking cloth. And like scrubbed up. But I just didn't bother doing that. Like, why try to be something I'm not anymore? I should just be completely real, because I've been lying for so long about who I am. And, anyway, enough about me.
I have remained silent on this issue for 4 years now. I want to see justice done for all the people he victimized. I was once a member of the Discordian Society, and I fell prey to Fiach's distinct narcissism. In fact, after Fiach constantly criticized me, he said that my mother should have been raped but she had died from cancer. I admit I should not have told him something so personal, but I was a friend of Fiach for at least a year. After that I blocked him out of my life. I've been lucky to not be doxxed by him. He crippled me when I was at a weak point, depressed and anxious. I think Fiach's main problem is that he didn't know who he was, and that his family was indifferent. Though everything else aside, I don't want to see people walk into the trap of Fiach's narcissism. Fiach abused me about my art and was totally incapable of empathy. He fractured my self-belief. And he uses your strengths and tries to break them down. It's not the fact that he is a troubled man, it's the fact that he is so strategic in his manipulation that's worrying. Any poor soul getting attacked by Fiach, especially when they are at their lowest point, is hard to overcome. I'm lucky that I slowly blocked him out of my life along with everyone else who was complicit in his treachery. Fiach was not stupid. He orchestrated his attacks strategically. These are what I call the 4 phases of Smiggles. 1. He wants to be your friend, and pretends to listen but never does. Fiach still has his supporters, and that's what he thrives on. His supporters gave Fiach his real power. Because no matter what he did, they would back him up. 2. Fiach thrives on forgiveness. In fact, it's his main tactic. If he fucks up last night over a drunken rage, he will ask for forgiveness as any friend would, especially when they feel close to that person. But Fiach uses forgiveness as a way to actively legitimize his abuse. Point 3. You can never disagree with Fiach, it's impossible. If you do, he'll rain hell and fire on you. I've seen it done to many other people. I was a part of Fiach's circle for some time. I know how he operates. Point 4. Fiach thrives on self-loathing and uses nihilism as a crutch to legitimize his monstrosities.
See, man? I was crying. I'm a very sad person, you know. You're right, I'm a sad person and I'm a sick person. But I'm getting better. I found my humanity again, man. I found my humanity again. I really have. Something's happened to me.
We believe David O'Driscoll's activities have gone unchecked by Ireland's authorities for a number of reasons, namely the vulnerability and locations of the individuals he preys upon, the threat of being further victimised, as well as the privacy provided to Ireland's citizens, giving David O'Driscoll an anonymity which he has effectively weaponised. The media presented in this documentary is merely the tip of the iceberg, as much of David's abuse has occurred in private. Many did not wish to come forward with their stories or participate in this documentary out of fear of harassment. Others have remained victims in silence, believing his attacks on them to be isolated incidents, or worse, deserved. To those people we say, these are not isolated incidents. This is a chronic pattern of extremely harmful behaviour, one which shows no sign of stopping without significant intervention.
Time is a flat circle. You know this. It's a flat circle. What we're going to do is we're going to take all that information and we're going to make a really nice, truthful, accurate summary of who you are and what you are, where you fucking live, bitch. Or you could just delete your Facebook account. Like, Jesus. Does this matter to you this much? Like, it does matter this much to me. Like, I'm sad. Okay? If you keep playing this with me, you're as sad as me. You can't call me a sad piece of shit. When you... Like, this is... Like, at least I'm enjoying this. Like, you can't be enjoying this. Thanks. Like, I know you guys probably, like, have all her immediate info and I can just double check it and... She blocked the number, yeah. Like, whatever. Like, we just put it everywhere. I was serious. That thing about truckers in Texas, like, yeah, we're gonna put some ads, and maybe there's a few other things on the dark net, a few other tricks I have up my sleeve that I can't talk about because my attorney advises me. My attorney advises me on my way to Las Vegas.
There is no doubting the severity of David's mental illness, and his vindictive endeavors have only escalated over the past decade, with zero evidence he ever intends to stop. David O'Driscoll is an immediate danger to himself and others, having an increasing abundance of victims at his disposal, and the means with which to silence them. Our wish is to erode the remaining anonymity David has so cruelly wielded, and ensure he not only gets the help he needs, but face the appropriate consequences for his actions. We hope this video finds David's parents, so that they can know what their lifetime of hard work is funding. We hope Ireland's Garda take notice, so that they can determine what laws have been broken and what sanctions are in order. We hope David's local community is made aware of the gross misdeeds of one of their own. We hope that justice is served, and David's destructive pursuits are finally put to an end. Please share this video and help spread awareness. Victim resources, additional media, updates, and more can be found in the video description. Our comment section is open for anyone willing to share their own experiences with David O'Driscoll, Fern Breathnach, and the Discordian Society. Thank you for your time, take care of yourselves and one another.